Well, it's time. It's time for another episode of State of CS. Welcome, everybody. My name is Semler, and joining me this week is going to be two masterminds of CS. You have Vendetta Halvor Gulstol?
That's good enough.
Good enough? Sweet.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to nail his name, Richard Papillon, Shoxy from Team G2. Ça va, Shoxy?
Ça va. Hello.
Hello. We don't have a webcam for Shoxy, but we do have, a beautiful picture. Richard, you'll get to see it later. But don't worry, trust me on this. It looks great. So let's just get right into it because I can't even stop you guys from already getting into discussions right off the bat. So to kick the show off, we're going to talk just a little bit about DreamHack Masters, and then we'll start moving on a little bit and get into current events topics. So, right off the bat with DreamHack Masters, I cut you guys off before the show, but I want to just dive right into it because I think this was on a lot of people's minds coming out of that tournament, going into that tournament. Where were we going to expect to see NiP, and how would they perform given the fact that they had such a long break leading up to the tournament to prepare? So, Ven, I cut you off when you were talking, so actually I'm going to throw it right to you. Pick up the thought because it feels like NiP, what's going on?
Well, that was the big thing. Like me and Shoxy were talking about it before we went live, and we like normally when you saw when NIP has had dips in performance in the past, right? You've seen them come back after an extended period of time, especially after getting threaded into the team. They come back, they seem rejuvenated, they show something new, they show signs of promise, right? That's the big thing. And coming into Vegas, you would have expected that didn't qualify for the major. So ton of time to prepare for just Vegas, which is obviously is a massive event. They want to do well there. Like kind of bounce back from that horrible qualifying fiasco that they had in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And we just didn't see a lot of that. And then that's what's so worrying. And I think me and Shoxy had the same thought around it, is that we expected so much more from a team like NIP with that much time to prepare, because all the other teams didn't have that luxury going into it necessarily. Yeah. So it's just like you're left with this kind of void inside of you, right? Where you expected it to be filled, but nothing came out of it.
They were good enough to ruin the hopes and dreams of the NA fans in Vegas, at least. They barely squeaked the win over Cloud9. So young Stu yet again thwarted on home turf. Can we get the player perspective, just a little bit of thought on that, Richard? Like, what did you think about NiP at DreamHack? Because, again, it feels like there was something lacking. But from a player perspective, what did you think? Silence. Did we lose him?
No, you don't hear me?
No, we didn't hear you.
There we go.
Okay. I don't know why sometimes you hear me, sometimes you don't hear. I don't know. So talking about NIP, I was really disappointed, to be honest, in Vegas, because in the past we saw them going back with a lot of new stuff, new ideas, playing really clean CS, as for example when Threat just came to the team as a coach and really helped them a lot. In their game style. So by losing to the qualification of the major, I was really like, okay, it's really hard for them, but sometimes you need it to come back really stronger, to work a lot and to trying your best, because you had a really hard defeat. You don't want to have another time. So I was kind of expecting it from NIP, and when I was looking to the matches, I was really disappointed because it looks like they almost didn't change anything. And it was like a sloppy CS, it was not the NIP we all know, maybe just rushing to a side, but really clean, jumping, revenge kill, or playing it slow to have a clean execute, playing good clutches. It was it was not the first and not the second. It was just they were missing a run, and I'm just really curious what's in their mind at the moment and how they are working, because as a team, we saw them practice a lot. So they are playing, of course. But maybe the question is the way they are trying to work is not the best as they should. I don't know, but it looks like it's not featuring with them at the moment.
That would have been the follow-up question, though. As a team, as a player, you have insight because you can actually you have access to the player practice channel. You understand what the schedules are for the teams and all that. So that was going to be the follow-up question. Were you seeing them prac? Where are you seeing them work? Like, because they're obviously going to be asking for scrim matches and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, was that happening? Is that why you're so shocked?
Yeah, because they are playing a lot, and they came back in January like really early. Like they were not like saying maybe okay, our next event is Vegas, so we got time, so we're gonna take maybe 3-4 weeks on holidays. No, they directly came back in the practice at the early of January. So and they played like 7 or 8 hours of practice as a team together per day. So it was a huge practice. So the thing is, when you see them today, you are just wondering where are these hours of practice, you know. I'm not really talking about individually, because I think some players like lost their confidence, you know. It's CS, so when you start to losing and stuff, they didn't qualify for the major. So coming back and having like to play like a beast for Get Right or Forest, for example, the big guys like this, it's sometimes really hard. And we all know that the Get Right had a tough time in the end of the last year, almost maybe questioning himself about maybe retiring or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was really hard. But that's from a perspective of individual. But about the team, yeah, I was just hoping something, you know. And even when we play them in practice, they are not bad, of course, definitely not. But it looks like they are not bringing something new, you know, or something like they are working on. It looks like they are just practice, playing, and not so much. And
not putting thought into what they're doing.
It's not putting thought. It's just not trying to understand the game, to adapt themselves about their weakness. So why are they losing rounds? What should we do to be better? It looks like they are playing rounds after rounds, and as you can see today, they had a really tough time against Fnatic, and they were starting on City Cache, and they started to losing rounds. Okay, it can happen, but you didn't see them just having like you know, an ego problem. Like, okay, we are losing 6 or 7-0. Let's do something. Let's push them. Let's try something. Maybe it won't work, and you're gonna lose anyway. But at least you tried, and it looks like they are fearing to try. I don't know why. Maybe it's in their mind or whatever.
What do you think, Van?
Well, no, I would agree with that, and kind of like you want every team to have an idea of what they can do, like a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. You know, worst comes to worst, and it's like I think it was Hiko who said that, right? If you go into eco round without a plan, you might as well not play it. Not necessarily because you're supposed to win an eco round, right? But why not have a plan for it? Why not have an idea of what potentially could give you a plan instead of just spreading out all 5, doing fuck all, losing, and instead of just potentially stacking a site or pushing aggressively somewhere to see if you can get an early weapon? Maybe that's, you know, the one thing you need to tip the scale into your favors. And I don't think we've seen a lot of that from NIP, and I think Shox is very, very correct when he says that. A lot of it, from what we've seen from NIP, well, especially the Vegas, was just standard stuff. And like when standard stuff is not working, they try more standard stuff.
Well, they're trying to play safe, right?
Yeah. But there's something like there's a difference between playing safe and playing scared.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not sure. Like, obviously, it's tough for us to say because we're not NIP, and if we ask them if they're playing scared, they're probably going to say no. But if you fail to actually take it to your opponent at any given time during an entire tournament, it doesn't really feel like you're playing with a whole lot of confidence, and I think that's a big issue. But
there's the fucking rub as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but like obviously, like, since we have Shoxy here, like, you've been in situations where you've had down periods with your teams and things are not working out. You've gone from being, you know, very successful, winning, you know, or being a contender for every tournament you attend, to not having the same kind of success. Like, what would be your ideal way of going about it? Because obviously you go back home, you start practicing with your team. So how do you go about like changing what's not working? It's kind of a weird way to phrase it, I guess. Yeah, but like, if you put yourself in NIP's situation, because it's like I said, they put in the hours, but it doesn't seem like the hours are resulting in anything. So what do you think you would do differently, or how would you go about it?
This is a tough question. Because
I may have an answer, but
Really?
French teams
because
seem to do this a lot. I can't remember what is it again? Right.
Oh, are you? Oh,
Change-
wait. Are you gonna
changing
say
something.
changing a
They
player?
changed something or some things.
But I'm not. I'm thinking like, okay. So I'm just gonna preface this by saying like you're okay. So in this
No, but I got the
hypothetical,
question. I got
Okay,
the
yeah.
question. It's okay. It's just because when I say it's a tough question, it's because I had a lot of times in my career, as you said, when I had some disappointment with my team and you have to go back to work. And CS can be really dangerous for your mind. What I want to say here is like by just losing sometimes one event on one map, you are questioning like all your game style and like saying like okay, everything is bad, let's get everything new, whatever, and that's bad. Sometimes in the defeat you have to still trust your game, and you can lose a game even for example 16-9 and you feeling like okay, we are noobs and what we are doing are bad. And if you look at the demos, maybe you lost the 2 pistol rounds, you lost every eco round, so it's already 6-0. Maybe you lost the 2 first gun rounds, so it's 10-0. And finally you managed to take 9 rounds, so it's not so bad. It's just your beginning of the sides are really bad. That's it.
Right.
But not, you know. So there is a lot of question you can have when you are losing. So it's really hard sometimes. But coming back to NIP, I think what it should do, in my opinion, when you are starting to lose like this, and I think you can see in their game style that they, as you said, they are playing like a bit like scared, you know, and maybe overthinking. You know, when you are when sometimes about CS you are starting to lose, you are just thinking about okay, what should I do? What should I do? Okay, that's good. But when you're starting to overthink, then you are just not even focused on your crosshair. You are just focused in your mind, and when you are when there is skin of the enemy in front of you, you are not thinking about aiming him or just killing him. You are just thinking, okay, what flash should I put? Should I call a teammate or whatever? And when you are starting to think like this, it's fucked up. You know, you can do anything and you're gonna lose. So because they are now losing from some mounts, and I think they really need to get their confidence back. Talking about NIP, I think this will be a good moment for them to just getting back to a really simple game style. You know, like really really slow or fast, whatever, but stack and just playing about the revenge kill and playing good the clutches, not thinking about all the round, you know, the beginning, the mid round, the end round, what tactic should we do, because when your mind is not up for it, it will be bad anyway. And it's not because your ID is bad.
Shit, we lost him for a second.
I think your mic cut off.
Oh, that was really interesting. Now I feel like this. I feel so sad and empty.
Hello?
See,
There we
go. You're
Okay.
back again. Yeah.
Okay. I had a bit of trouble with the connection. Sorry. I moved in the south of France and I don't have the same connection when I was back to Paris. So it's getting hard. So yeah, just to have a conclusion about NIP, it just playing more simple stack revenge. And so, you know, it can be stupid for people, but when you are in the game and you have confidence, you will prefer to have 2 or 3 guys just next to you, ready to revenge you, to just push the site, than trying to control the area, being 1 or 2. And when you don't have the confidence, you are really scared to go, you know. So going back to this style, getting some rounds, getting some matches, and when your confidence is back, maybe just go, then you can start to think about more in-game mastermind, I would say, you know.
Ven, before we move on, because that's the perfect segue to go into another team that I think is really interesting right now. But what do you like? Do you have anything you want to add to the NIP equation before we move on?
Yeah, no. But I like the approach, right? Like before you can, instead of trying to reinvent your entire being, just go back to the basics and the core fundamentals of what you found success with earlier to regain confidence that will allow you eventually to tweak minor things. Instead, it's like Shox said, right? Like if you lose a couple of tournaments, you lose a lot of games, you don't necessarily have to change everything about you. Right? It's like if you want to have a girl liking you, right? Like you can't create an entirely new fake personality to make that happen. That's not going to work out well for you in the long run. And I think it's kind of a similar style with NIP. You need to, take it bit by bit, like small parts at a time, and just start by rebuilding yourself. Like be like RoboCop, right? You have to do it in parts.
I like the RoboCop.
I like the RoboCop. Yeah, I like that too. I mean, there's that classic trap that you can fall into where if you change too much, you don't know what worked within the changes and then what didn't, right? And so you get lost. You get further down. You get further away from the solution, right? All right. I mean, really good points on Nip. Think it is like, in particular, I don't think that like Get Right very often has had to deal with fucking videos being made about him missing shots and stuff like that. You know, just to lay.
Oh yeah.
You know, just to lay on even more pressure where it's just Smiths and whiffs, and then now Get Right, getting wrecked, and it's just like woo. That's a lot of weight to carry, and that can definitely fuck with your game. So I mean, when it comes to Nip, it could just be a case of like we have to give them some time. And we'll see. I mean, they're not done yet here in this tournament. They've still got that quality of like never say die. So we'll see. But there's another team that there's been a lot of talk about that I find really interesting, and that also finished 5th to 8th alongside Nip, and that's NaVi. So I mean, a lot of talk going on around NaVi, Simple, C's, Starix, all this sort of like. It sounds like that's a real conundrum as well. So I mean, given the fact that there was a bit of time for prep to go into DreamHack. What do we think about NaVi and their? I mean, I'll start us off right now. Thorin released a very good article recently. Actually, you should go and check it out. It's on gamers.com. But on the fact that Simple isn't necessarily the problem in this case, as he might have been in the past, but that there are other factors to consider, such as C's taking on the in-game lead role, Starks obviously getting it taken away from him, and basically, I think he needed to actually mention the fact that you have other stars, Guardian, etc., Flamey, that have to create space for Simple as well. So there's even more layers to it as far as game adjustment is concerned. But there's a lot on the table right now for NaVi to try and work through to become world beaters again. So. I mean, I'll start it off with you, Shox. We'll get the player perspective, and then we'll move into the analysts. But what do you think about NaVi right now? Because you've played against them. I mean, they said that they had an incredible boot camp, going into not necessarily the Masters, but like the Major, and obviously that should have carried over to the Masters. But they said they've been working very hard, and they feel very good about it. I mean, what's your impression as a player right now playing against the likes of NaVi? Or have you been able to crack against them at all?
I don't think so.
You don't
my
think
mic
so?
is good? It's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we practice them any soon. So, but yes, the NaVi problem is, my point of view, you have two things. The first thing I will begin here is I was this kind of guys who honestly didn't like the fact that they changed Zeus to Simple.
Okay.
I didn't like it because, in my opinion, since a lot of years, even coming back to 1.6, like it was a long time, NaVi, even if they didn't reach to win events, they always been like a really top team, coming always almost to the semifinals, sometimes to the finals. So okay, they were not winning, but today doing a semifinal and getting the third place is a very good thing, because the level of the competition is so high that it's okay to do a semifinals. It's really good. And so I think they maybe start to, they wanted to win, and they were worrying about getting only to the semi or the finals. But sometimes I don't know, it feels like you should not have do it, because and still trust in your game style, in your game plan, and sometimes it will work. But as the real strength of NaVi, it was their consistency. Like they never fall out in the group stage. They never fall out in matches like this, or the risky match, how we say. They always been through this, always. And when they were losing, it's because they were losing against better than them. It happens, But they always had a really top level of consistency. And why they had it, in my opinion, it was because their game style, We always remember going back, I think it was in 2013 or 14.
Mm-hmm.
How was it called? When they were playing very games and they were like 5 or 6 overtime on Mirage.
Oh yeah, that was Mad
remember?
Cats
Yeah,
Vienna. Yeah.
The event
That's
we
it.
will never speak of again. I don't know.
Yeah. And we all remember these days because it was like, okay, we are playing NaVi. It's really hard in your mind. You have to be really focused because you know the run will end like at 20 or 15 seconds, and you don't know where it's gonna happen. You know, they always had the control of the map, and it was really clean CS, team play, teamwork, and by getting Zeus away, in my opinion, they lost it. Okay, they're trying some new stuff, so sometimes slow, sometimes fast, and trying to adapt themselves and being maybe less predictable. But in my opinion, it was not how NaVi did well. It was not with this style. It was the NaVi style. They were really...
Oh, mic cut off again.
Well, they had a real tendency to play a very slow control kind of game and grind. Like that was the strength.
That was their identity.
Yeah.
There's a reason why like so many teams tried to copy it. Obviously, they couldn't perfect it to the same way.
To me?
Yeah, now we can hear
we're
you.
back. Yeah, you're back
Okay.
now.
I really don't know what happened. I'm very sorry with this.
No, it's fine. But basically, I'm going to let you talk for 2 minutes from now on, then I'm just going to cut you off so that it's it doesn't happen, and then I'll be like, Ben, what do you think?
Wait, I didn't finish.
Yeah, finish your point.
Yeah, so that was the first point, okay? The slow style, the NaVi style. And by getting too simple, they tried to change it. And for me, it was not the good thing for NaVi. Okay, you get the point, okay?
Yeah.
The second is like, in my opinion, okay, Simple is a really talented player, of course. He's very good, whatever you can say. Okay, I have no problem with this. But you can see Simple came to the team. Okay, he's putting maybe good big numbers and stuff, but you lost some key players from NaVi. You lost Flamey, you lost Gradian, you lost Seize, like really big players who always showed up in the past. And because Simple is taking so much place right now, you don't see these players, these key players, So okay, Simple is really good and he's a beast, but it's a team game, and we don't care about having one player having 30 kills or whatever. It's because you will have like 3 or 4 players getting 20 kills that you will win the match. And for me, that's the big point where NaVi lost about it. Is maybe they have a guy who can trust even 40 frags in lands and can win you a match. But for the consistency and for the future, you are losing your key players. What's made NaVi in the past?
You're right. So it's fun. I actually have an example that can build off of what you just said. When it just comes down to positions, right? Positions played, and I was watching the last time that NaVi have played Mirage, right? Over the last several Mirages that they've played since Simple has joined, and it's like if you watch where everybody else is going, like Guardian now, super limited. Like he goes window or he goes CT and like on CT side, right? Like he just doesn't really move anymore. He's just kind of like got like these 2 spots. Everybody's really kind of got their spots. And then you look at Simple, and Simple's everywhere. Like he's all over the place. He's on B, he's on A, he's on a mid connector. He's just going everywhere on the map. Whereas everybody else seems very, like set in their ways. I mean, Edward, obviously, he's got a place on the map that's named after him. So obviously he's going to be there every round on short B, but like, everybody else very fixed, whereas like they really do seem to be just giving free reign to Simple to just like go wherever he wants, because if you watch his positioning, he's all over the place. He's just it's like it seems to me like he actually just gets free reign as to like, oh, I'm gonna go here this round, and then everybody's just gotta be like, okay, and let him go, right? I don't know if that style works anymore. It almost feels like it almost feels like NaVi with Guardian back in the day, or even Titan with Kenny. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think that kind of style can work, but I think it's not suited for those players. And I think what Shoxy, basically, if I could take everything Shoxy said and just replay it, that would be my take on it as well, in a lot of ways. Because what made NaVi was the NaVi style, the ground out way. The fact that the team that they ended up with when they had Suze was built in a certain way that actually complemented all the players. Because well, it's like Shoxy mentioned, the fact that sure, you get Simple, who might get you 40 frags in a game, but it has also made the limitations of how much you could get out of Flamey, Guardian, and Seized, especially Seized. Seized has been more or less a non-factor ever since that move, which is a
I
super
think that
shame.
has more to do with the coach ruling and the fact that he had to take over the in-game lead role.
Yeah,
than anything,
absolutely.
Right?
But that, see, and this is where you come back to the fact that obviously you can't blame this on Simple. This is not Simple's fault by any means. But if that Simple move doesn't happen, Seized is not affected as much because they still have Suze, right? And that's kind of where it all comes, tightly fit in a nice little package together. The fact that it all ends up being with that move removed a huge part of the identity that NaVi had, and one of the massive strengths about them. The fact that sure they might be predictable in the sense that that it's going to take a long time before they execute towards a site, and that they're going to sit still and basically hold map control for 99.9% of the time. But it's extremely hard to play against. So even if
it was extremely hard to cast too. I remember.
Well, yeah, because you need to fill like 1 minute 40 of nothing.
Well, boys, it's NaVi on train. Let's go. Gonna make a sandwich. Get some coffee.
There's NaVi setting up in their default, and then that's literally nothing else happens.
So Anders, what movie did you watch last night?
Yeah.
Okay. We got 45 seconds to talk about it.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like that's what you're going to go up against, and even towards the later stages as well. Like if you go back to their Columbus Major, like they started adding more pace to the rounds as well. So they started adding like a tiny element of unpredictability to their playstyle, which was again one of the reasons why they made it to a finals. But now with Simple, it doesn't seem like they can reliably fall back on that old style that netted them pretty much a spot in the top 4 every single tournament.
So we come full circle then, it sounds like, where, it seems like NIP need to be looking for that sort of thing. I mean, that's what I want to follow up here, actually. I want to get your opinions on, like, okay, so we've identified, or at least we've given our opinions on maybe what is not working. Like, okay, say you can't change it. You can't bring Zeus back because he's got his home on Gambit now. So you have to kind of like eliminate that. How do you progress? Like, where do you go if you're NaVi at this point? Because clearly something's not clicking. So, like, where do you go from here?
That's the thing. I don't know. I don't see any players. Obviously, like I don't know them extremely well. Obviously, the only experience I have of them is just playing against them a couple of times, and obviously meeting them, here and there at events. Shoxy probably knows more about this as well. But it doesn't feel like any of the players in that current NaVi team is like a natural fit for a leader. At least in my head. So I don't see necessarily if you can maybe release Seized of the duties of in-game leading, but who would actually take the reins then? Like Guardian doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would thrive in that kind of a role.
I don't agree.
Yeah.
Oh, you think Guardian?
Yeah, Richard.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Now go ahead.
Well, Richard, what do you think?
Yeah.
The thing is, I was not thinking about it. I was not thinking about changing the in-game leader. But when you are talking about it, I just remember my time when I played with Guardian, when we were TCM, and he was leading. He was leading, and he had really good ideas. Like even me, I was really surprised. I thought like it was just a sniper, really good and whatever. And I don't know today, but at this time. It was the guy who were having a lot of good ideas, trying to fit the team together and whatever, like having like your in-game leader role, and it was really interesting, and I really liked how he did it. But I don't know now because it was like 2 or 3 years ago. So
Yeah. Still.
So but
if
you don't change the in-game leader role, I think you got 1 point, and either it's gonna work or either the team is dead. You don't have the 50-50. It's like the poker. You have to go all in, okay, if it don't work. And in my opinion, if you have to do this at the moment with this lineup, then you have to get back the confidence to player like Seized, like Flamey, like even Edward, and especially Guardian, okay? They have to make the difference. They have to be good. And you have to trust them. You have to give them the confidence. And to give them the confidence, you have to lower a bit the confidence from Simple. So he can give more space to these players, and that's why I'm saying it's all in, because we all know all the history about Simple being toxic and whatever. Okay, so either he won about maturity and it's gonna work, and he's still not gonna be bad. Maybe he will not have 35 frags, but maybe he will have 20, which is still really good, you know, and Guardian can trust the 25 or whatever. Okay, you got my point. Or either like he doesn't like it because he won't be like the star like he's today, you know, like really the guy we are watching when we are playing NaVi, and he will start to being toxic again, and then you can't do anything.
Yeah, this is interesting. It is a case of too many cooks in the kitchen, like too many. I mean, hell, even Edward wants to be a star, you know, like it's just, well, he still plays like it sometimes, you know what I mean? Where it's like he'll have those performances where it's like he goes off the rails, but I still think like he has that confidence to like want to go and mess people up. So I mean, it does feel like there's a lot of firepower in NaVi trying to find space to work.
Like, I think it's kind of a balance when you want sometimes, of course, when you have the confidence and you want to push, you want to make the difference. Okay, but doing in the way like it's intelligent. Don't go alone. Have at least one teammate so you can be revenge, you know. If you have 2 or 3 kids, you don't have to search for the ace and for the highlight. Go back, bring the 5v2. And if every player is like this, then there is every space for everyone. But if you have always one guy who is pushing on the anti-echoes, rushing, taking the USP after 3 kills of MP9 because he wants to kill, you know, like you are behind as a teammate, you are trying to playing safe, and you have a guy who is just running everywhere, doing everywhere. And sometimes, like, you know, we are human. And I'm not saying like it's jealousy, but
yeah, no, I definitely get what you're saying for sure.
It can be a case of envy. I mean, it can be that though. Like if you're, it's tough to give the space, right?
Yeah, it can be tough, but I mean, you adjust and learn, right? Hopefully.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to find a solution, whether that is finding a I don't want to say a sports psychologist, but like a therapist or something, you know, like basically, Guardian, tell me how you feel, you know, like that might actually have to be the sort of solution, because it feels like they should have all the tools necessary, even with, you know, seized at the reins.
Yeah,
I was unaware that Guardian could actually fill that in-game lead role, or even maybe like they decide, hey, we try and make it work together, right? Split it, sort of situation.
Yeah, that could be actually really cool. I like my X factor in that discussion would have been Edward. Obviously, like Edward's
out of
not
experience,
the most
basically.
Yeah, because Edward's not obviously the most outspoken guy, but he's played with like every CIS in-game leader you can name pretty much throughout the years. Surely he's picked up something, and we know that he is a smart player. He's not necessarily just, you know, there's not just thin air going through there while he's playing, right? He's actually thinking about what he's doing. So
I love it that he hides it so well, that he's English. Like he doesn't let on.
I don't know, but if you meet him in a bar, he's really quick to suggest you like what you should be getting. like
he'll chat it up with you, no problem. I'm like, bro, why aren't you doing interviews? What is this?
Because
as a Guardian every single time.
So, you know, to me, Edward would be that X factor. But then again, I've never played a game with Edwards. I wouldn't know how he actually functions in game in that sense. Like if he's actually like talkative enough to actually take charge. But you know, obviously Shox has experience with Guardian, and if Guardian was able to do that in TCM, then it's worth trying out. But again, like I think it's worth noting that something Shox pointed out as well at the start, the fact that the level of competition in CS right now is extremely high. So if you get a top 4, you're a really fucking good team. And even if you go out in groups, depending on how your groups looked, like you might have 3, let's say it's best of 1 is group stages, right? You lose 3 games, but you lose 16-14 in each and every one of them. You haven't necessarily played bad. You just had, you know, not necessarily luck go your way in those 3 games, and because of that you're out of the groups, but you lost to 3 really fucking sick teams. Right? Like if you go back to Navi's run at the major in Atlanta, they had a fucking insane run in the groups. Flamey was just like having 9,000 ADR like throughout the group stages. Everything was looking super dandy. Then they run into Astralis, and it's like, well, shit. Like you can't really fault them for falling to Astralis. Astralis ends up winning the entire tournament. They played out of their minds as well. So you can't really say that, well, Atlanta was a failure for Navi in that sense, even though they didn't get the result they wanted.
They even won 16-14 on Mirage. Like they like barely lost the 2-0, or like Astralis, right? I mean, Navi showed some fight in the second map, but
so it's, and I mean, if it's a rough situation to be in that sense, and I mean, even if you go back to Vegas, like they make it through groups, so you know that that's not bad by any means. And again, same thing with NFE, but like they make it through groups. Obviously, the loss versus Mouse Sports is a bit worrying, but that's a best of one where you have a team with Oscar and Nico who can just go absolutely batshit at any given time, and you can lose best of ones in that sense, in that way. But when you get into the playoffs, they play versus SK, and SK looked really good that tournament, and they did lose Mirage 25-22 versus SK, right? So
yeah.
That could swing in NaVi's favor. All of a sudden, you're on Overpass. We've seen NaVi versus SK on Overpass 4 have like really close games. That could have been super exciting, right? And all of a sudden, you look at NaVi in the semifinals versus North instead of SK, and from there on out, it's anyone's game. So that's like, yeah, they haven't had necessarily like the same consistency as they've had in the past, but it's not all doom and gloom, even though they're not winning tournaments. But I do agree with Shox, the fact that it seemed like they made the move to be able to go from being that always top 4 team to being a potential winner of a tournament more often, and then maybe go out 7th to 8th, or go out in group stages one tournament, but then come back and win the next one, that type of thing. So it seems like I guess their top ceiling has grown with Simple in the team, but the consistency is not there anymore.
All right, I want to ask Shoxy something. What? Give me your opinion. How to make this like? All right, give me your player's opinion on VP, and give it to me straight, because like this is insane on VP.
Like about the team, or just about the players individually?
About the win that they had, right? Like
on Vegas,
back-to-back finals, and then they win at DreamHack Masters.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise. I mean, it doesn't surprise me anymore. It's VP, and when they're in their day and they're beating an event like you, it's really, really hard to stop them. And I don't even know if they had been stopped when they're playing like this. So yeah, it's just VP. It was their day. It was their event. And when the chemistry of the stars just decide that it's VP, then you just have to let it go and say, okay, it's not for us.
I like that.
That's basically it, because what
like
is
laws of the universe, right?
Yeah.
It's like the laws of the universe. Like when things click for VP, it's just like it's like a natural disaster. You just kind of have to accept that shit's flying around you everywhere. That's like it. Your house is getting lifted off the ground. You can't do anything about it. So you'll just have to, pick up the pieces when it's all over and try to rebuild yourself.
Yeah, and what is really hard when you play against VP, and what I really like from them, and I want to do in the future with my team, even if it won't be before 1 or 2 years, is because they have been playing for so much time. What people don't really realize, I'm not talking, of course, about the automatism, about the team play, whatever, of course. But the thing is, like, they have been working for 40 years together. So basically, on every maps, they can do almost every rounds, every tactics, A, B, mid, fast, slow. They had been 4 years together. They had played all these rounds. So when you came to them, you can't really know what they will do, because they can do absolutely everything. And I think that's their really biggest strength.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool point, actually. The fact that, because it also, like, if we want to touch on the fact, talk about confidence and everything, and how players, sometimes go into a slump, and one of the ways to getting back into it is making small changes and whatnot. For VP, with them being so familiar with each other just as a team, they could probably very easily change things up, like we see them do on Train, for instance. The fact that they swapped Neo with Pasha on how they play CD sides, like, they can probably do that in a heartbeat, and it would benefit them. Not necessarily because it's something they've practiced a ton before, but they've played together for so long, and they've kind of tried everything that you can think of under the sun at this point, that they feel confident that even if they change things up, it should work, because they kind of have that backbone the entire time.
They actually have a Neo as well. Like, you got to give them that. Like, they have a guy who, like,
can do anything.
Yeah, basically, it's just like, what do we need? What do you need to feel like he's like the ultimate fucking, man, I don't even know, like, leader? Basically, I would say leader, because it's just, whatever my teammates need to be at their peak performance, doesn't even matter if it makes my game harder or my life harder. It's gonna happen, right? Like that's an insane kind of ethic to have.
It's like 85 kilos of Play-Doh. It's pretty much what he is, right? So
there we
like
go. Tag that line. Leo is like 85 kilos of Play-Doh. Perfect. All right.
Because like you wake up one day and you figure out like, okay, we're having this issue, and then Neo's like, okay, let me transform myself, and the team, they basically shape him into what they need to fill that hole in the wall, and that. To have a player like that, obviously, like Shox, you play with a bunch of French players. To me, like a guy who always felt like that, like a bit of a glue guy in that sense, was RPK. At least back in CSS, like a guy you could reliably count on to do stuff for you, without necessarily wanting to.
I want to hear Richard's opinion on this.
Yeah, no, it could be very different, but obviously this is like from an outside point of view. But like somebody who's always reliable in that sense for your team.
What do you think, Richard?
Who wouldn't necessarily run out to get his own. He would always have the best interest of the team at heart.
I think
you might have a completely different player in mind, though. Maybe someone like what did you play with Shox back in the day? Mike cut out.
Fucking Mike, even when he isn't talking.
No,
there we go.
Hello?
Hey,
yep, we're good.
Okay, so no, I never played with Shox.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, no.
No. Talking about RPK, yeah, I agree with you, but the first player who came in my mind would first be NBK.
Oh yeah, of course, Nathan. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
But I agree with you. But when you're talking about Neo, you have to make a difference here. It's between you can't compare RPK to Neo because RPK I mean, of course, if you say to him like do it, he will do it. But Neo will do it, but he will perfectly do it, and he's way more versatile. As you say, he can do anything. RPK can't do anything.
RPK can rifle. He can't.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. But yeah, you need some players in a team like this, and I'm totally got your point. When you say like it's really easier to work with this kind of people. I mean, you can put them everywhere and just imagine. Plus, if they are good in it, then you can just do whatever you want on CS. You don't have to think about like, okay, I need this kind of player to do this. No, you put him, whatever, he will do the job. So that's what personally, in another point of view, what I'm trying to aim with the new G2 roster today. I try to have the most versatile guys I can have on the CS French scene. So to do kind of like VP, like in 1 or 2 years or 6 months, I don't know. If we want to change something in our game, we won't have to change a player. We would just have to change position.
Yeah. I think there's a smart way of going about it. I'm actually a bit ashamed that I didn't think of NBK. Especially because especially if you think about like how or the kind of roles he played when he got into Very Games.
LDLC.
Yeah, well, yeah, LDLC, but Very Games back in Source even. Yeah. Like the fact that he used to like op a lot of the time as well back then.
Yeah.
Now he doesn't really op at all, but he knows how to op. He's a super versatile player. So I'm actually a bit ashamed of myself for not thinking of it.
And the man plays poker like a boss. Jesus,
really?
what can this guy not do?
He's
what
good
can
at poker?
he not do?
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's kind of like what I don't know if we really need to discuss Astralis too much because I don't feel like this was a failure on their part. It really was a case of this is VP's day, so there you go. Astralis are still going to be a real threat no matter which tournament they go into right now, at least in this time period. So
I'm just really curious about what they will do at Katowice because I think it will be the key event. Like it's been 2 events. They won the majors and they're doing finals, so that's really a huge step for them. Now we are coming to the third, right? So for me, like it's a key event. Either they confirm it and they will stay in the finals or at least in the semis. But if they don't go through the minimum of the semis, then the big work they had since 2 months can be totally down from it.
Yeah, it'll be like a lot of teams have those runs actually throughout the years, though. If you think about it, like I think, yeah, like in that sense that it's so hard to stay at the top, right? That's
Yeah.
much easier to chase than it is to constantly remain at the top. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if Astralis have a down period and then come back later on in 2017. But yeah, this should actually be a pretty good tournament to see if this is going to be something we can reliably expect out of Astralis.
Well, they are in a Nordic group here.
Yeah, which could add some fun to it. But as for right now, as from what I've seen and kind of how Astralis plays and how they have played, from the major basically like since the end of 2016 and until now, it seems like it's something that's fairly reliable, at least in my eyes. So I think they're going to continue on with the strong track. I mean, in that sense, they might be a new NaVi in that sense that they're always going to be around top 4 whenever they go to an event.
That can be.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch.
Well, they actually, I mean, Astralis actually, are a talking point not only because of their performance right now, but because of players like Device talking about using heat maps and stats and analyzing the game to find weakness or to find strength, and then to play and adjust off of that. And then this big focus on the sports psychologist side of things. And I mean, this is really where I kind of want to get to next in this talk, because it's a bit of a hot topic right now going around. Obviously, it was more drama than anything between Thorin and Peter. But it is valid, like where are we with stats analysis in CS, and how important is it from a player perspective and from an analyst perspective, right? It seems like you have the one camp that believe that it's not being used very well right now, and then you have the other that seem to draw much more from these stats. So I mean, all right, let's start off already with an analyst, right? So when it comes to analysis, Richard, what do you think about having that kind of analyst behind you, going over your game and trying to find weakness in it or strength?
Hello, my mic is good?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure. Talking about the analyst, I think you got a point. Either it's in your team, or for example, when you go to an event and the analyst talking about stats or whatever. Mm-hmm. For me, you don't care about pointing the good stats, like the kills, the entry kills, stuff like this. Because also, you don't make the difference between the entry kills in, for example, like, okay, it was entry because they rushed me, or I had to push in the gun runs and I did it. It's totally different. And the number, you don't see the difference. So it means it doesn't mean anything, all right? But you can point, for example, okay, for example, you were in 4v2 and this guy overpick. This is a good stat, because you point something like he should not do. And that it's really interesting to see how this is going. But talking about like stats, the KD, the ADR or whatever, it doesn't mean anything. For example, the ADR, maybe you're having like a normal game, but you like they just pushed you. You had a Mac 10, they were all USP. You killed them all. You have like 500 coming in your stats as damage, And it's a run like you don't even count it. You don't care about this. So these kind of stats for me are totally random, and you don't have to.
I mean, I'll add one even better for you. The first thing I think of when it's ADR, your CT side. What happens if, like, you're playing SK on Mirage and they go A site 13 times and you're playing B?
Yeah.
You go into a retake every fucking round. I mean, you're not going to be getting too much out of that.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's the big thing. Obviously, I think the kind of stats that we use in CS today are not particularly useful because they show like an overarching grand scheme, very like basic look at what just happened. It's basically like a neat summary for people to catch up on things, but it doesn't really in detail tell you what actually went on in the game. And it's like with what Richard mentioned, the fact that you could have gotten an ace and stacked up 500 ADR in one round against an eco, and that doesn't really matter because most likely you're going to win that round anyway. Sure, it's nice, but in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really matter a whole lot, but it's still going to be reflected in your stats like you did something absolutely insane. But at the same time, like, I think, I'm not sure if like that kind of if you're able to get those kind of stats that you'd like to see. Like, I think the for instance, like how like how successful a player is at actually having good flashbangs, for instance. I know that's something that ADL has added. I think at least it's public.
Sure.
Like
How
stuff like that.
Flashes, right.
Exactly, like stuff like that, like you see, like with I think it's called Sports VU that they use for the NBA, which is like stats taken to a fucking another dimension. But it's not just like field goal percentage or anything, but it's like nitty gritty stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think about that adds up in the grand scheme of things. And I don't think
the one
we have.
stat that I'm. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to round up, but I don't think we necessarily have the tools as is right now to bring those out, which is a shame, because that could highlight strengths of a player who doesn't necessarily frag as much, or isn't at the right place at the right time in a certain game, but you could still see the impact he had through those stats. But those are not available as of right now.
I mean, what I think is interesting is more like positional. Like, okay, what one interest that I've had for the past couple of days, and I've been looking at it. You know, it's like positional stats. You know, it's like take NaVi, that example that I had about Mirage earlier, right? You know, take Guardian. You look CT side Guardian. He goes left side window 9 times out of 15 on in that half, for example. You know, and if you get enough of those halves where you're going to have like 4, 5, 6 maps, you know, within the past 2 months played on that map, and you notice that Guardian 70% of the time is going there, then that's a stat that you can take into it. If you're on T side, you're the opera, you're like, well, maybe I put a shot through the smoke there because 70% of the time he's going to be holding that angle. Or, you know, like that's the kind of stat from like a player or even from a commentator point of view that could be interesting, right? Because that's something that you can just point to and be like, well, you know, 70% of the time Guardian is in this position. The other 20% he's in CT. The other 10% is when Seized calls for something random like stack A or stack B, right? So I mean, I don't know. It's you really have to get it. Like I've had this conversation with Peter, right? The Thorin's foe. I mean, I get Thorin. This is why Thorin says you need the eye test, is because all of these stats, if you just look at them face value, they mean nothing, which is why you have to be watching the game. And that's where an analyst's strengths come in, because he's going to tell you, right, you may have this stat, but this is what actually is, you know, behind this stat. This is the context. He provides the context for that stat. And the thing is, like, I think there's like a miscommunication going on between the two of them, because when I talk to Peter, he's just like, absolutely. But the problem is you're going down a rabbit hole, because you start realizing, as soon as you start to follow one stat, then 10 other stats open up. And then behind those 10 other stats, another 10 on each of those open up. And then it's like infinite how deep you can go, where you start thinking, well, how effective is, okay, so ADR, right? Then you're going to think, well, which position does he play CT side? Okay, he plays B side. Which does he play the anchor at plateau truck, or does he play short? Okay, and then you're going to get there, and then it's like, okay, then what's his average damage per round when they rush anti-eco, right? Okay, what is his, you know, it's just, you keep going and going and going and going, and then at the end you're just like, where is all this getting me apart from just trivia?
Well, I think that's where you need to have filters, right? That we don't really have, and this again comes back to what Shox mentioned about. So you can. It doesn't really matter if you get 4 or 5 eco frags in 3 eco rounds, and obviously that's going to give you great KD most likely throughout the game. But it's much more important to see, basically, like on average, if you attack the B bomb side on Inferno against Fnatic, Crims is going to net you the 2 first kills of a round. Like that kind of a stat would tell you more about it. Like if you can actually like divvy them up into small portions, so you can put them specifically into context around a player when you're trying to highlight a point, right? That's what you want to do. So let's take Shoxy, for instance. Like if Shoxy plays a certain bomb site on a certain map, like how successful is he when he plays a passive role on that bomb site whenever that bomb site is attacked? Like how much of a success rate does he have playing that kind of a style compared to when he goes aggressive and tries to be disruptive to what the T's are doing? That kind of stuff would be cool, but we don't have those kind of filters.
But we happen to have the man himself here, so we can ask him. So I mean, yes, okay. when it comes to stats, Shox. Okay, fair enough. We've it seems like we kind of agree. Like right now, we don't have enough depth in them to really find the value in certain stats. But let's say when you're reviewing, you mentioned reviewing demos. Like what is it that you're looking for then that's like effective for you to gauge, what worked and what didn't. How does that work for you? And do you have somebody helping you? That's actually, do you have an analyst, or do you see a value in having an analyst behind you who's actually helping you churn that kind of information, or does it all fall on you because you're the leader?
Test.
You're good. I'm gonna buy you a fucking mic and send it to you, bro.
No, but I don't have any problems with my mic.
That's the connection.
I don't know what's going on. It was maybe I'm not used to use Skype or whatever. Okay, so talking about the analyst, what I can say is when I watch demo personally, I lost sometimes my mind about the how can I say. Trying to find too much details in the game, as Vendetta said, sometimes you just try to search for information. Oh, sorry, or you said that, August, my bad. But you are trying to find for an information, and then you got a second one, a third one, a fourth, a fifth, and things go on. And at the end, you are working since 1 hour. You have like 2 pieces of paper totally booked, and you are just looking at it, and you are like, okay, so and what do I do now? It doesn't help me.
Yeah,
So yeah, we need filters, and that's really hard. Talking about the analyst, yes, we have one. It's NKG, who have been working for NVS in the past. He's really good. He's a really nice guy, and it's the first time I'm working with an analyst. And honestly, it's only the beginning. We have been working together for 1 month. So at the moment, we are more really focused about the team game, what the tactics, what we are going on and stuff. So I'm not too much working on the analyst part because we don't need it at the moment. We just need to get used to our game style. But after, for sure, I will use him. And I already thought about some stats I will need for the opponent teams, which I can't tell you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, okay,
Makes
we're
sense.
not gonna blame you for that.
Yeah.
But at the moment he's just helping us about the stats, maybe like our stats. Something like someone who is too much greedy, who is not getting care about his money.
Like you're losing X amount of anti-ecos because one guy is deciding to do stuff on his own.
Yeah, that's it. Like basic stuff, stats like this. But we used it at the beginning of the team for like 2 or 3 weeks, and so we pointed it. But in my opinion, it's not, you don't have to point it like every day, or you're gonna make your teammate lose his confidence. Like he's getting reproached like every time, every day. So it's getting annoying. And now when he's getting a skin in front of him, he will like scared to die. So he'll just fall back, And you have to find the balance between don't be too much greedy, but sometimes you have to be greedy. It's really a balance. You have to think, and that's what we are working on. But it's really hard sometimes because you feel it's a good move, but if you die, even if it was a good move and you are losing the run, you are getting like, fuck, I did bad. I lost the run for my team. And sometimes you just have to get back to it, and that's why you need someone like a coach or an analyst who is outside the game, so who can see the whole thing, and saying like, you did good, okay? He the player like killed you, but he did an amazing thing or whatever, and still maybe you died, but you still have 2 or 3 teammates behind you. Don't be too hard with yourself. And so it's kind of a balance you have to get between having the stats and using it, but not too much. Otherwise, you're just gonna lose your mind.
Yeah, using it and finding that sweet spot, pretty much.
It's fun because I watched this movie Moneyball, right? And it was funny, the timing.
Such a good movie.
It's so good.
So good.
And the timing was uncanny because obviously, like, I'm watching this movie And I'm like, holy shit, you know, Duncan and Peter over here losing their fucking minds on each other, with Lurpus obviously chiming in, right? You know, about this very topic. And I just happened to stumble onto this movie on Netflix. And I was like, ooh, it's so good. But there was like that one, there was a moment in that movie. I don't know if you've watched the movie, Richard, and I'm not going to spoil the movie necessarily for you guys, even though the story is out there. It's based on like actual like history, what's happened.
The Astros, right?
Where they finally have, well, I mean, you have the guys, basically the analysts who are there, and then it just seems like they're very selective after that with what they are giving. They aren't giving the full picture to the players. It backs up exactly what Richard is talking about, right? Where it's like, does NBK need to know Kenny's opping stats, or like what tendencies Kenny needs to work on? No, not really. Like, it's more like, okay, NBK, in this sort of situation, you know, if you do this instead, you are better at it, or you get better results, blah, blah, blah. But like, you're focusing in on one key thing that's going to have the impact for that player. You ignore everything else, right? Whatever works, you leave it. And then you're just like, right, this one little thing, tweak that and see what happens. And there was this moment in this movie. Highly recommend it, guys. If you need a good movie to watch, fucking awesome. I enjoyed it through and through. But yeah, it got me thinking about all this stuff with CS, you know, like, where do we have the depth? Do we have the number of games necessary? Can we pull from maps that are different rosters and a year old? No, we can't really reach back that far and say, right, this is relevant information now. Like, the map can be played completely differently. It could have gone from CT to T side or to middle, like 8-7-9-6 kind of map. I mean, everything is constantly changing in CS so quickly that it feels like, for example, here, you know, it's like, okay, you know, how many times can I count this game of like Train played by Astralis in like the past 2 months? And then they've played it like twice, 3 times. And you're like, shit, you know, that's not, I mean, okay, if you want to go off of like rounds, then it's like, okay, you've got like 50, 60 rounds to kind of look at. But then how many different situations are happening in those rounds? You're not really you know, it's not straight enough the way in Moneyball, where they're just like, well, you know, the guy's pitching, you know, it's like, you pitch the ball, that's going to happen a lot. You know, like that. You know, it feels like you can kind of point at those things and say, it would work a little bit better than in CS, where it just feels like, holy shit, there's so much data that has to be churned to be able to come and actually get like a stat that's going to be useful.
I guess well, with a lot of the major sports, especially baseball, basketball, and so on, they've had time. They have had time as well to kind of filter those things out, so they know, like, okay, this guy has a 80% chance to walk the first, like, anytime he steps up to the plate, right? Like, that kind of thing. They know that. We don't have that kind of grid around CS just yet. And I think it's going to take a long time before we get there as well. But, you know, we have to start somewhere.
Exactly. We got to start somewhere. I feel it's like really fun times right now, because we have a level of parity across the teams at the top right now that's just nuts, which I don't know if is a good thing or bad thing, honestly. Like, I honestly wonder, is it better to have like some of the most exciting times for me in CS, period, was the end of 2014 when LDLC and Fnatic were just fucking going at each other, right? And you had that every time, you had that rivalry to look forward to in the tournament, where it's just like, when are they gonna meet? Oh, you know, like
never in a finals, because they always run into each other somewhere before that.
Oh, I mean, like, you know, that's where right now, I guess the two that we can kind of point to right now in CS, well, you kind of have like 3, really. You have like SK, VP, and Astralis right now, who are like stand out, bang up, and then we're waiting to see the G2, the Fnatic, like where these guys are gonna fit in along with like North, NaVi. Like, I mean, but I guess, yeah, we do have like the 2, but it doesn't feel as electric as it did in the past. So I wonder, right? You know, like, do we need SK to just go on a stomping ground again, or VP or Astralis? Like, somebody dominates 3 tournaments, 4 tournaments in a row, really get up there so that they can get taken down again, or just rule like nipped it. I don't know. What do you guys think about it? I'm kind of in the middle of it all right now.
I feel like Shox doesn't want one team to dominate.
No, he wants his team.
Exactly. So he might have a bit of a bias in this. No, for me, I don't necessarily see like that it necessarily has to be a good or a bad thing, depending on like whether one team dominates or not. Like, if one team dominates, it can be cool to watch, because you like, every other team is a challenger. So every time they get into the ring, it's a title fight, right?
Sure.
Like, to knock down David. No, I mean Goliath. Jesus. But yeah, no, you You get the drift, and so that's one fun angle you can watch that from. But if it's just a complete clusterfuck as to who's going to win, that's obviously exciting because every match feels like a title match, right? So it's not necessarily just when let's say VP, right? Like it's not just when VP plays versus another team. It's exciting. It's when SK plays versus NaVi. It's when G2 play versus Fnatic. All of that stuff. So I think you have like a ton of upsides to both of it. It's just like a different take on it, like what angle you want to look at it from.
I think this is why it's so important, and Shox is bang on. It was Richard who said it, right? Like Astralis and Katowice is going to be so important, not only for the team, but also I think for the fans, because you need to see like Astralis win the major, and then they lose versus their foe, Virtus Pro. But if they come back and win the next one, oh shit, then we're into some real territory where it's like, is it Astralis? Is this it? Have they, like there's gonna be a lot of interest at that point. Whereas if it was just another, like a one-off, like, oh, it was Astralis this weekend in the major, but now they're only ever gonna make top 8 again. That, like, I feel like that's gonna be a letdown, right? There's a lot riding on Astralis right now. And the reason why I was thinking that I was just thinking about McGregor, right? Massive fan, because basically he dominates and then he lost to Nate Diaz or whatever. But then he comes back just right back into it again and gets right back on top. So it's like there was like that confirmation that this guy's a fucking monster. And so, I mean, I'm just wondering as far as, like storylines, to use the nice catchphrase, or storylines, but like storylines right now, where are we in the storylines with the teams? I mean, there's a big storyline sitting in the chat room right now with us. I mean, the fact that the deadly combo of Richard and Kenny are together, that's I think a lot of eyes are on G2 right now to see, is that going to work or not, because we haven't seen it yet. I've seen you guys talking at bars a lot. I haven't seen you guys on the server together a lot.
It's been like since 2014, been like every now and again pops up like a picture after an event. It's like Kenny and Shox are talking.
I felt like paparazzi. Man. I was like,
yeah.
It's okay, we are together now.
Yeah, finally, like the happy couple.
Like, is Prac going well right now? I mean, I understand that it's definitely been online, at least it's been tricky for you. Like they're what was it, against Fnatic? You had difficulties. It hasn't been like super smooth. So where are you at right now with the team?
NV as well.
Hello?
NV.
Yeah.
We lost against NV. Even if it doesn't make any sense to me, like we have to point it, like it's a reality. I'm not gonna hide myself. We lost. That's the game. That's it. Now we'll see when we're gonna face each other again. So the thing is, now going back to the practice, it's getting better and better. As I was saying when we were not live yet, we just trying still to learn each other. I mean, I never played with Kenny. Nathan NVK is a bit different than when I played with him 2 years ago. So we are trying to find each other the same style we used to play together. I didn't play with Apex in 6 years. Buddy never played with all the old NV guys, the 3. So it's a lot of new things, and we are trying to put new stuff in our game, like which were not necessarily either in G2 or NV. So we got some G2, we got some NV, and we got some new. So now you get everything, then you get 6 maps to work on, and then you see where we are. It's only 1 month. We are working every day. And we are trying the best, but the good thing is like we are getting better and better. I won't say like to give you some dream. We are raping everyone in practice. No, we had been raped. We had been totally raped. For example, 2 weeks ago, Asteroid just raped us like 27-3, something like this. Then after we tried to put some, we managed to put some runs some days after, like 9, 10, 11, and now we are getting to win some practice against them. So you can see there is something better and better, and for me that's the most important thing. As I said every time in the interview, we are really working in a long term. We don't want to change anything in this team. We all think like we have everything we need with these 5 players. Now all come to us with how we will manage to use it properly to beat everyone. That's it.
So just to kind of follow up on that, because obviously we know that whenever a new team comes together, they require time to be at their best. So if you want to give us an optimistic forecast, like when do you think your team will be in contention for a title? Will it be 2 months from now, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, or do you think it can happen sooner even?
If I look at how the practice are getting, I will say we can aim to start about thinking an event in like 2 months.
Okay, cool. I like that.
I mean, what you have Star Series coming up at the beginning of April.
Yeah.
Then you have DreamHack Austin.
Yep.
Trying to think about what else off the top of my head that's big that's coming up. It's a little dry.
We need
March
to qualify for ACS and EPL.
That's right.
Yeah.
The online leagues, right?
Yeah.
But,
I don't really think about it.
always
Like I look
fun.
at online leagues as like, okay, I can kind of get like a temperature test on a lot of the teams with like online results, but I always just forget that, oh yeah, this is actually like one giant qualifier for this LAN. I'm just like, fuck, Jesus Christ.
I guess
that's
Just
it.
give me the LAN. I
the
don't give a fuck
summer
about all this
event-
online
Yeah,
shit.
but I want the LAN too, but we need to qualify.
Play 30 maps. Okay.
I guess. Well, we don't know all the invites for the CS Summit event, right? But and I guess if you guys are invited, you can't really say or not. But that's what, end of April.
I don't know if we have anything going on that yet.
Yeah, I think 4 teams are invited, and that's SK, Optic, NV, and Cloud9. Those are the only ones that are announced. So, but maybe that at least like time frame wise, that's at the end of April. So maybe if G2 happens to be invited for that.
There's a good long while, right? What
It's
learned
2
from
months.
Las Vegas. I mean, yeah, that's like 2 months to lead up to that. And that tournament also, I'm gonna be very curious to see, you know, because BTS, you know, has always been about more of like a super loose attitude, etc. Right? So it's gonna be interesting to see how the teams.
It's gonna be Home Story Cup.
I mean, basically, yeah, it's gonna be like a Home Story Cup. I don't know if you're familiar with Home Story Cup, Richard, but
Yeah, of course I am. I loved it.
you loved it.
Yeah,
I
dude.
loved it.
Those events are just so fun to be
That's
at.
right.
I did
We
like
had the waffles, of course. How could I forget the waffles?
Because I just love when there is a lot of family stuff, you know, like you don't overthink about the spectators or whatever. Just having time, being natural and being human, you know. Don't put too much stars, too much costume for you, similar. Come in jogging, come on, and hang a beer and it will be good.
I'll come like this next time.
Yeah.
I feel like this is
if
where we
for
need
Homestead.
I think this is where we need the GIF of Sem when he was living in the good studio house, like with those loose pants, yeah, and the hip gyration. There we go. That's the outfit you need to wear for those kind of tournaments.
I actually, after I had those pants for 6 years and I threw them away.
You threw them away?
Well, they were tearing apart, dude. I think they were more thread for me, like putting them back together again than anything. I shit you not, because they were cheap pants. Like I'm amazed they last that long. They were cheap pants, but they were
So what you're saying is you can probably get a new pair.
Absolutely.
There
The
we
next
go.
time somebody goes to like Taiwan for me, I'm totally gonna get them to hook it up. Because those
There
were
we have
legit
it.
monk pants, man. They were sick, so sick. All right. Well, I mean, all right. This is definitely starting to get there. So I want to just touch on Katowice real quick before we get out of it. And what's going to be fun is obviously, actually, it's coming up next when we're recording this, but it's going to be FaZe, boys. FaZe and the deadly man Nico has finally been released. What do we think about this? Because that's, I mean, we've been talking about it for ages now. I think like Yanko had a small tear of joy that came down his cheek when it happened, when it got announced. So what do we think about Nico with FaZe? Is this another simple, or is this what's going on here?
Do you want to start, Vendetta?
I mean, I kind of mentioned this in the last state of CS. It went on and on about how I think this is a great move. So I'm just gonna let Richard have his time to share his opinion on it.
All right.
All right. So my mic is good.
Yep.
All right. Now talking about Nico, I don't really know, to be honest. He's an awesome player. My only question is, will he fit in a team that can be other stars than him? Because he had always been the stars. He had been also the leading game. So when I know, like when you are leading game, you know, you can have more freedom individually. For example, now he will have to fit in a role from a leading game with other big players. And I've been through this. I played with like a team which was not the first French team with other players. I was kind of the stars. Then I joined the big team, and it's not the same. And you have to adapt. So, of course, Nico is the best, and I don't have any doubt about this. My only interrogation about it, and what will be really, I will be curious to see, is how will he be adapting to the team spirit, you know, and to the carrying an in-game role. That's it. And I have absolutely no idea and no opinion about it. I'm just curious to see, and I guess we'll have a better opinion after this event.
Yeah, I've gone a step further. I have full confidence that he's going to fit in, just blindly.
Okay, then.
Yeah, no, but it's a bit of a different setup, like team-wise, than what you have with NaVi. Obviously, you have an experienced IEM leader in Kerrigan, which I think first off that's just going to help right off the bat. And I don't know. Well, knowing Rain from having played with him for many years, he's not the kind of guy who's going to get that to his head. He could easily do what's better for the team in that sense. He's more interested in winning than he is getting his. Right. So I think that's a good start. Well, Shoxy, you've played with Kyo, so you could probably attest to this, whether it's true or not. But I would assume that Kyo is fairly versatile in terms of like what he wants to do for his team. Like he's not interested in getting his
honestly,
own stats or.
Honestly, like in the past, he definitely was not like this.
Okay. Yeah.
I had some problem with him coming back to the beginning of Envious or even LDLC.
LDLC back in the day.
Yeah. If you want a little history, when we created the team called Mercenary, so with NBK, Happy, Smith, and Kiyoshima, the thing is like we picked Kiyoshima, and because he was like the youngest guy, you know, like a big of
talent,
skill.
Yeah.
And stuff like this. So, and what we wanted in our plan of game is just him to go first to make the entry kills, and so we have like the experienced player behind to kind of close the run, you know, and just the talented player go in the front, kill everyone, and stuff like this. And since the beginning, he just said to us like, "No, I won't go first. I don't want to." So, he was not like this back in the days, but from what I heard now, and when he's talking to me or whatever, he's saying like he won a lot of immaturity, he don't care anymore about being the star or stuff like this. So I think he changed today. I hope so for him, but back in the days, he was definitely not like this.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Good. Well, we have that insight.
Yeah. Then, I mean, it's important for a lot of players. A lot of players' careers have derailed simply because they can't put aside their ego. Like that's happened in pretty much any competitive aspect or anything competitive. Someone's career has been destroyed because they can't put aside their ego for the betterment of the team. So in Kyo's case, I hope that's the case. It feels like it, at least. And yeah, it's like what Richard said, like in more recent talks, like he seems like he might have changed a little bit. So no, I'm still confident in FaZe, even though knowing the backstory makes me a bit weary. But I kind of feel like he's found his role in FaZe, especially with him kind of jumping back and forth between teams. Obviously being tagged as the problem. Now it seems like he's got a good thing going for him right now in FaZe, and it doesn't really, to me at least, it doesn't make sense for me to see him kind of making a fuss about Nico getting a more prominent role in that sense.
I'm just a bit disappointed in him not, just owning it the way Alu did and making a legit shirt. Bought Alu, got Alu, right? Should have just made, like hashtag the problem with him, like, or something. I don't know. Like, should have been like he should have been all over that. I'd have bought one. But there we go. I mean, I'm just looking at the groups right now for Katowice, and this group B is brutal. Like, dude, that is
honestly, the entire event is pretty brutal.
But to be frank, like when I look at, I think there's a lot more parity. I mean, when I look at Group A, it's like, okay, Astralis, yes, monsters.
Yeah.
They should just crush through everybody in this group because FaZe, that yes, they're going to have that. They're going to have Nico. They're going to have like a system that should be working. Have they had enough time to prac and really fit him in? That sort of thing. Like I have doubts, right? And for every other team in the group, I have doubts, right? Of like, okay, well, Immortals, FNX, how does he fit into the beast? Is he going to be able to is that going to be an improvement? Are they going to still be struggling? Fnatic, still waiting to see what's going on there with Olaf and Crims and everybody else. Nip, well, we spent a good bit of time talking about Nip already. Yeah. And then Optic, same thing. You know, they're still trying to figure out how to make peace work in that. I mean, they did show us something pretty entertaining at DreamHack Vegas. I'll give them that. I was expecting less from them there. But still, world beaters, not quite. But then you go to Group B, you're just like, SK Gaming, monsters. VP, Jesus, they're a bear. North, fucking lions. I mean, let's see, Cloud9. Yeah. Cloud9 is like the one, not Cloud9 and NaVi, because I think Heroic are also a team that can get undervalued in this sort of situation. I think that Heroic are definitely going to show up and are capable of doing damage. It just sucks that they wound up in Group B versus, you know, SK, VP, and North. If they were in Group A, I would put Heroic and Astralis, you know, like just getting out, mauling everybody.
Really?
Like, I think Heroic are gonna be they're gonna be beastly, man, because they got nothing to lose. They got talent and they got nothing to lose. Well, if you underestimate those guys, they're gonna mess you up in a best of one.
I mean, sure, they got nothing to lose, but do they have the skill to win?
I don't know. I'm not saying that they're gonna win the tournament, but there was like some upset potential there. You know, there's some upset potential for sure.
Yeah, I think I tried to egg on Anders to say that Heroic would win the tournament.
No, dude, he's so addicted to Astralis right now. Like, you can't, like, withdrawal of him changing from one team to the other would kill him on the spot.
He waited for so long time.
Yeah, it's true.
Dude, that's like the thing, man. We're talking a years-long habit. You can't just get him to shift from one to the other like that. You know, it's going to be like curled up on the floor.
Right? It's the same thing.
I guess, you know, Danish, just say, but they're still from Denmark, Anders.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to trigger something in him. He's going to get like a little glimpse in his eye and he's going to be like, you're onto something. But
I mean, they're still, Astralis, Heroic, Refresh are happy at least. They have a team in each group. Good odds. That's true. It's all right.
But I mean, like I think it touched lightly on this in last CDCS with the groups here for Katowice. And we talked about, obviously, there's teams coming into this that haven't played an official game or like played at an event together before now, which is FaZe, and you've got Immortals. Obviously, Optic are going through a bunch of changes. Like, you can go 0-3 in either Group A or Group B and still have done a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a pretty cool aspect of it. Like, that kind of tells you how good the teams in this tournament are.
Just and give me Young Stu. Give me Young Stu. See, we saved Nico, boys. Now we need to save Young Stu. We need to get him on the FaZe.
Where the hell is he going?
We need to get him on. I guess FaZe is like the home of lost children. Like, we need to get him on the FaZe. Get him in there. He'll be a threat.
Where are you getting out of FaZe though? See, like, now we have a problem unless you want to start fielding like 8 players.
Yeah, right. Hey, they actually have a bench. Jacob is still there. All right.
That's true. But
I think I mean, you've already talked about it, but like. And we've already kind of made it clear, I think, Shoxy, you know, it's just like, I think Shoxy and we align on that, where it's like, if Astralis don't win this tournament or make the finals, I'm going to be a little disappointed. Just a little bit.
Yeah, that's it. You got it.
It's going to be like bad.
Yeah.
You're going to be like that. You're not angry. You're just disappointed.
Just a little bit disappointed. You know, I'm going to stare at them. I'm just going to like kind of cross my arms and just
sigh a little.
No. Just look. Just.
Oh,
are you proud of yourself?
I just have
to
cross my hands.
Oh man. Okay. Well. Okay. Yeah. So Richard, who do you think is? Well. Okay. Yeah. Do you have any faith in Heroic like some?
In what? In Eric?
Yeah. For Group B. Do you think they could actually make it out of groups?
Honestly, no.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See here, Shoxy knows what he's talking about. Like, because Sam, okay, for Heroic to go through groups, they have to either beat out SK, VP, or North.
I know. I know. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But let me have my dream.
Okay.
Or maybe, if you want maybe to bet something on, then they will have to play their elimination match, or I don't know, against North. Yeah. And maybe Danish team versus Danish team, maybe something can happen.
All right. That's the one silver lining that, you know, Semler can grasp onto.
Yeah.
that's all where the hope is. But okay, so just
you have a little faith.
Overall. So overall, Richard, who do you see coming out? Who do you think is going to make out the top 4 of this event?
top 4. I would say Astralis, SK, VP, and the first is kinda hard, but I would go with Fnatic.
All right. So
Okay.
yeah,
I
I
like
think
it.
I think actually I had FaZe as my 4th.
I don't think FaZe is ready at the moment. Nico had been released really soon, and I think they can be a really hard contender in the next weeks, next months. But I think at the moment, like they won't. I mean, they won't do bad results, but I don't
They're not
expect
gonna win.
best from them. Yeah, because it's not they're bad. It's just it's too early, you know, and they have to work. And I don't think they still had a lot of time.
I gotta say, gentlemen, I'm shocked at the lack of faith that you show in the Magic config. Like, come on, North are monsters. They failed. They just stumbled. A little bit of a stumble.
Okay.
Couple weeks ago.
Ender's brother.
Beta CS, man. Beta CS. But Shoxy, you saw the picture. You know where my mind goes to get a tie.
True.
You know?
True.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think this is a good place to call it. We've definitely gone a little bit over. Thank you so much for having patience with us, Richard, and for sharing your thoughts with us, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem.
And
It was a pleasure.
enjoy watching the tournament. And Ven,
Yeah, thank you. I love you're not playing, bro. So enjoy watching the tournament.
but it's like I'm not casting either, so I'm just chilling here. Be like, hey, just get to sit and watch and kind of like, well, I mean, I'm looking at production as well. They're doing a really good job so far, Katowice. I'm enjoying it so far from what I've got to see. So, okay. But I think that's going to be it for this episode, guys. So thanks all for tuning in. Be sure to follow. It's going to be up on SoundCloud as well. And we'll see you all next week. Take care.
Ciao.